Good evening, everyone, or afternoon, morning, wherever you are. Thank you for joining me, Dorothea, on Through an Orthodox Christian Lens. I have some geological events to share with you. See, while I was on vacation over the weekend, I happened to look over my phone on YouTube in the evening, and all of a sudden I saw all these stories, these videos on geological events such as volcanoes and earthquakes that just happened to be coming up in the past, I don't know, couple weeks at the most, maybe 3. Not many, but recently. I don't know why all of a sudden these popped up on my YouTube newsfeed, considering that I wasn't subscribed to any of them or looked at any of that stuff. I think, at least on this issue, I hadn't. I only saw one story that actually popped up probably last month that came out of nowhere as well, that I had never seen before. I'll show you that. But in the meantime, right now, I'm going to show you a few of those reports, videos that came up. I'm going to show you a little bit of each of them, so you get an idea of what I've been seeing and why it's important. Okay, this one is on the Cascade volcanoes.
Though the Cascade Range appears calm, scientists agree that another major eruption is inevitable. Volcanic activity in this region is driven by the ongoing subduction of the Juan de Fuca plate beneath the North American plate, generating magma beneath more than a dozen major volcanoes. Many of these volcanoes have erupted within the past few thousand years and remain active today. Mount Rainier is considered the most dangerous volcano in the United States, not just for its eruption risk, but for its massive ice cover. Even a minor eruption could unleash deadly lahars racing toward Washington, leaving residents with less than 40 minutes to escape, threatening over 80,000 people and turning calm valleys into disaster zones. Mount Hood, just 50 miles from Portland, Oregon, and Mount Shasta in Northern California, one of the largest volcanoes in the Cascades, also pose serious threats. Both lie near major cities and transport routes, and even small eruptions could disrupt water supplies, shut down highways, and blanket communities in ash. If Mount St. Helens erupts again, nearby towns, hit hard in 1980, could once more face catastrophic lahars, flooding, and ashfall, as the landscape still bears the scars and instability left behind. Other volcanoes, such as Glacier Peak, Mount Baker, and the Three Sisters, have shown signs of unrest and also pose risks to nearby towns. Lahars, ashfall, and pyroclastic flows are the most immediate hazards, but long-term impacts include power outages, air traffic disruption, crop failure, and economic losses potentially reaching tens of billions of dollars. Though the exact timing is uncertain, the science is clear. The Cascade volcanoes are active, unpredictable, and could erupt with little warning, putting millions of lives and vital infrastructure in the Pacific Northwest at risk.
Okay, so I saw that one. And then we got into, let's see, this one, what's happening in Japan.
What exactly is happening around the Takara Islands? Stay with us until the end, and let's uncover the truth behind these unusual events. Located in the southern part of Japan, the Takara Archipelago is part of Kagoshima Prefecture, a region well known for its intense geological activity due to the presence of the Ryukyu volcanic belt. Historically, the area has been marked by both seismic and volcanic episodes, but what's currently unfolding has even the most experienced experts concerned. Since June, an unusual phenomenon has caught the attention of Japan's scientific community. Beginning on June 21st, a continuous sequence of tremors started hitting the Takara Islands, putting residents on constant alert. What initially seemed like just another typical seismic swarm soon turned into something far more unsettling. Dr. Shintaka Nagai, who has been visiting the region monthly since 2002 to provide medical care, stated that this is the most anomalous event he has witnessed in over 2 decades of experience. He reports that the number and intensity of the tremors, as well as the emotional toll on residents, surpass any previous incidents. As days go by, concerns are mounting. In early July, evacuations began on the islands of Akusima and Kotorakajima due to the increasing frequency and strength of the tremors. Many residents have fled their homes, seeking safety elsewhere, while others have chosen to remain, despite the constant fear of stronger quakes or even a volcanic eruption. For those who stayed, daily life is dominated by anxiety and uncertainty. During one of his visits on June 24th, Dr. Nagai reported feeling 2 magnitude 4.0 quakes. Since then, over 11 earthquakes exceeding magnitude 5.0 have been recorded. This significant increase in seismic power reinforces the theory that we are facing an unprecedented event in the region. The situation has deeply affected the mental health of the population, particularly because the tremors frequently occur at night, making rest difficult and contributing to ongoing stress. In addition to the tremors, visible changes in the environment have started to emerge. Landslides, seawater turning yellowish and brown, and a strong sulfur smell coming from the Shinmo-dake volcano all point to abnormal activity beneath the surface. Images captured by Coast Guard aircraft show disturbing contrasts: barren sliding slopes next to dense forests and altered ocean colors. Despite all these signs, scientists still cannot pinpoint the exact origin of the phenomenon. The prevailing theory is that magma movement beneath the islands is causing the tremors. However, the lack of sufficient monitoring equipment in the region makes it hard to conduct a more accurate analysis.
Okay, so yeah, lots of stuff going on around the islands there of the Japanese islands. I said 1,700 tremors in the Takara Islands. Then we have this one.
At first glance, the calm waters of the South China Sea appear to conceal only beauty and serenity. However, beneath this peaceful surface lies a silent threat that has long concerned experts. We're talking about the Manila Trench, a little-known geological structure with enormous destructive potential. Located in a tectonically active region, this trench stretches for over 620 miles, 1,000 kilometers, from southern Taiwan to the island of Mindoro in the Philippines. Its unsettling behavior has placed the scientific community on high alert as they monitor tectonic plate movements within the Pacific Ring of Fire. Historically, this area lacks detailed seismic records like those in Japan, making it even more challenging to monitor. Even so, geological formations, such as uplifted coral terraces along the western coast of Luzon, suggest that the region has experienced sudden landscape shifts, typical of earthquakes with magnitudes above 8.5. These geological clues suggest that large-scale seismic events may occur every 250 to 375 years, 400 to 600 years. The most alarming part? This recurrence interval suggests we may already be nearing the next cycle. The trench operates as a subduction zone, where the denser South China Sea plate dives beneath the Philippine Sea plate. This movement doesn't happen smoothly. On the contrary, the plates are currently locked, building up an immense amount of energy. When that energy is eventually released, the impact could be devastating. This type of geological fault, known as a megathrust fault, has the capacity to generate earthquakes and tsunamis on a catastrophic scale. A comparison with similar events helps to grasp the risk. The Sunda Trench, which triggered the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami, shares characteristics with the Manila Trench. In the Philippine case, it's estimated that a sudden release of accumulated energy could lift the seafloor by up to 33 feet, 10 meters, displacing massive amounts of water and generating towering waves in a matter of minutes. With densely populated coastal cities so close to the risk zone, reaction time would be minimal. This kind of tectonic movement is one of the most dangerous triggers for tsunamis, as sudden uplift or sinking of the ocean floor moves enormous volumes of water in just seconds. Additionally, the Manila Trench is part of a complex geological network with nearby transform faults and volcanic arcs, increasing the potential for a chain reaction disaster. This isn't just a threat of a single earthquake or tsunami, but of multiple interlinked events. Thus, the apparent calm of the South China Sea hides a true sleeping giant. The combination of prolonged seismic silence, lack of precise historical records, and geological evidence of past events creates a scenario filled with uncertainty and concern. With each passing year without significant activity, the likelihood of a major rupture increases. And when that moment comes, its effects may be felt across multiple countries, not just the Philippines, making the Manila Trench a threat of international scale. Though the history of the Manila Trench is shrouded in uncertainty, the present reveals increasingly evident signs of instability. In recent decades, the region has recorded a series of moderate tremors which, while not catastrophic, have drawn expert attention. A magnitude 7.1 earthquake, MW 7.1, in Mindoro in 1994, and another at 6.2, MW 6.2, in Pangasinan in 2006, served as reminders that the area remains active. However, these occurred along smaller faults or within the subducted plate, reinforcing the notion that the main fault is still locked and accumulating stress. More recently, at the end of 2024, a sequence of offshore tremors near Ilocos Sur and a magnitude 5.6, MW 5.6, quake in Ilocos Norte reignited concern among scientists. The increase in light seismic activity was accompanied by records of slow slip events, movements between tectonic plates that occur over days or weeks and aren't felt at the surface. Yet these may signal the system is approaching a critical threshold. Similar events were observed before devastating earthquakes in countries like Japan and New Zealand, making the current signs even more concerning. These slow slip events may act as precursors to major ruptures, early warnings of tectonic plate movement. GPS and seismic sensor data suggest growing pressure along the main fault of the Manila Trench, increasing the tension between the plates involved. Experts warn that, based on accumulated energy, the next major earthquake in the region could reach magnitudes between 8.8 and 9.3 MW, 8.8 to 9.3. An event of this scale would rival the 2011 Tohoku earthquake in Japan or the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami, both of which led to catastrophic human losses, infrastructure destruction, and global economic impacts lasting years. A worst-case scenario envisions a rupture extending from southern Taiwan to northern Mindoro, with the seafloor experiencing uplifts or drops of up to 33 feet, 10 meters.
10 meters. And then he says obviously tsunamis would come about after that. So a lot of things are happening in the Ring of Fire, as you know, as they usually are, but things seem to be waking up. They're saying that volcanoes are waking up, the tectonic plates are moving. Okay, so the thing that I watched a while back, I'm just going to show you that little tiny bit, and you'll see what I was talking about on this weird gigantic rift opening near Baja California.
Part of an experience made possible by the Ocean Discovery Institute.
A pair of earthquakes struck Baja California this morning, and people across San Diego County felt the impact of them.
In this video, we journey beneath the waves to unveil a stunning secret, a gigantic rift opening in the seafloor off Baja California that has left marine researchers and scientists utterly shocked. What began as a routine academic expedition to update seafloor data quickly evolved into one of the most surprising and captivating scientific stories of recent times.
Okay, so, and they go into finding this. They weren't expecting it. And I just wanted you to see that, hold on, he might say something else.
A mile beneath the Pacific's restless surface, something is stirring, an undersea volcano known for its activity and mysteries.
New here at 5, there's...
Okay, so a mile down, and this rift is opening near Baja California. You know, it's very, very south, like the last part of California that is bordering with Mexico, as you know. And so we see all these things moving the Earth is doing some moving around with the plates, and that's affecting the volcanoes, waking them up. I also saw something on Yellowstone, but I'm not going to bring that one up. But it's something about its liquid moving out under the Yellowstone and coming more up on the northeast, kind of shifting that way. But in any case, things are moving a lot. That the geologists, scientists are saying is unusual. It's not the usual things that we have. And I just happened to be watching this. Well, first off, I found it interesting because it's just interesting. But second off, it reminds me of what is going to happen with the prophecies, with the earthquake, with certain things that the elders and the saints said about that. So it just seems all of a sudden all of these things are happening at one time, listed and coming into my feed. And as you know, I don't believe in coincidence. So I just, you can call me some kind of kook. That's fine. But that's what I noticed. In any case, so I'm going to go to, it's kind of a side thing, and then I'll come back to the prophecies. But, climate change is a big thing to these climate activists, and they say people are the problem, and that they're causing these climate changes due to greenhouse gases, carbon footprints, and the fact that we here are dependent on oil for our cars, planes, etc. We should be using cleaner energy and all that. But having discovered geoengineering and weather modification a couple years ago, I feel like, well, I could agree with what they're saying, that some of these things are caused by humans because of playing God and messing with nature. And nature tends to do things when collective sin happens on the earth. So when there's so much bad stuff that the humans are doing, the earth will, as they say in the Bible, you'll see in scriptures, you'll say the earth groans because of all the terrible things that people are doing at that time in history. So I kind of feel like all of these things happening with the tectonic plates and all that, and yes, if you think of it as in a worldly sense of scientific and geological, yes, that's the way Earth is, but even they are saying this is kind of unusual. But in any case, they may be looking at it as Earth, how Earth works. But spiritually, this is a lot of things going on now that are concerning. And I'm going to share with you as far as the man-made modification, weather modification. I'm going to share a little bit of Jimmy's show where he talked to Dane. I forget his name now, his last name. I'm going to play a little bit of that as soon as I can find it. Okay. You've probably seen it.
And you say, so you are saying that the flood in Texas, according to some data that you have, was artificially engineered. Is that what you're saying?
There's nothing natural about that event. Nothing. When we see the frequency transmission interaction, holding that storm moisture in place, forcing it to precipitate out in one location, there's nothing natural about that. These are patented processes. It's not theory, it's not conjecture, it's not hypothesis. Nothing natural about that event. And let's look at Hurricane Helene. We recorded that as well. That's a very damning recording. In real time, we recorded those transmissions, the NextRad network, steering that storm where it ended up and holding it there to precipitate everything out. And we're dealing with those legislators too, Jimmy and Kurt, in the Carolinas. One particularly honorable individual there, Representative Lee Gelreith, is so on board with fighting this issue that he's paying for billboards to expose this issue out of his own pocket. He made a very powerful statement in a 2-minute video, which we have posted on our site. He's former military, stating these programs hold our future in the balance. We have to stop them or we're done. On film, on the record. So we do have some very honorable representatives out there. Lee Gelreith is one.
And so what? So tell me, what kind of instrument do you have that, and what is it measuring? And that's how you know that they're keeping this weather system in place to dump.
It's not our instrument. It's an actual data loop for the NextRad network that we still have access to, which I'm frankly surprised. I hope it doesn't now go away that I'm talking about it, but it's almost as if this cabal wants to leave a trail of breadcrumbs so that they feel justified about doing whatever they want because the public was told. But we have access to the actual data loops for that network that show the energizing of those facilities and they're interacting with the storm. So again, we have hard data. There's no blank spots here.
Yeah,
None.
well, you're not going to look, I mean, not you.
Okay, I'm going to go over here, skip over to this part, and just play that part for you really quickly.
Weather modification events, like you keep mentioning those hurricanes, what just happened in Texas. Do you think it's to make people more afraid of climate change so they can institute their plans to control us through climate change legislation and climate change rules? What do you think to that, Dane?
There's much more to it. And that, again, when we saw, for example, the blizzards, you guys remember that in New Orleans this winter, blizzard in New Orleans, blizzard in Florida, blizzard on the Gulf Coast. What weren't we told at the same time in the polar regions, January 21st, interesting date for those blizzards, by the way, it was above freezing and raining in the polar regions, Alaska, Greenland, Iceland, Siberia. So we have a psychological aspect that as these programs do more damage, that convinces people that the damage really isn't done. If it's snowing in New Orleans, how could there possibly be damage to the planet, right? That's one aspect. Two, if we look at, for example, Hurricane Helene and the lithium mines there that the public was not willing to vacate, they certainly likely are now. Was that connected? Was that another layer to this equation? There are likely many layers. Let's look at Dubai. You guys may remember that Dubai got hit with 2 years worth of rain in 6 hours. And that coincidentally, it happened about 4 days after they said they were going to ditch the dollar. So again, is this a shot across the bow of any country that doesn't toe the line? They're wiped out with some sort of cataclysm, or populations that won't move off the patch of dirt that contains the lithium. Interestingly enough, many people don't know this, but Iran has discovered the second largest lithium deposit, they believe, globally.
Yeah.
That's interesting. How does that fit into the equation of them recently receiving what they got? So again, there's so much more to these equations, and with the weather warfare, covert way of clearing the land, or in the case of Lahaina, for example, Pacific Palisades, lots of variables here, Jimmy, lots of agendas, lots of objectives. But on the current course, if they continue to do this kind of damage, nobody's going to be here for long, and that includes them.
Okay, wow. All right, I found that information very interesting. I want to say that this, again, here we are, he's talking about this weather modification and how you're playing God, you're trying to manipulate the weather what you want it to be for your particular reasons, okay? And nature is going to respond to our meddling because, as my son told me, nature always tries to balance out what's going on the earth. So if we meddle over here and mess up something, then it has to balance it somewhere else and do something opposite. He used the example like if it's raining really hard or flooding or raining over there, then it's going to be really hot over there, in different areas. In any case, nature is responding, isn't it? If you look at it as a spiritual way. That, whatever we do, I was reading something in my new book that I got from Eschaton Visual called Russia Before the Second Coming. I just started it, but I read something from an elder that said, when we do things that go against God, eventually punishment follows. And, you know, I think at that time they were talking about what happened with Russia, falling, you know, kind of lax in their faith, and then, you know, then things happened that weren't good, like the Bolshevik Revolution and all that. But in any case, we see that this happens when we do things that are very sinful, and it's a whole collection of us doing this. So what I'm going to do is show you a video from April 5th, 2017, a short little portion with Metropolitan Neophytus. He's being interviewed there. This is having to do with Greece, but he does bring up America. I'm going to show you this quickly on the earthquake issue. Let's see, where is that? There he is. All right. It says, the person saying this, the gal, she says, usually we pray only to ask for something, when instead the prayer should be full of repentance, as you told us. Now I'm just going to read it because, again, it's all in Greek. Especially when we witness the signs taking place, he says. When we see that the eruptions of the volcanoes have increased, the earthquakes in the whole of the world have increased. The war zones, the threats of war, famines, immigration, social inequality, she says, explosion of corruption and perversion, its legalization. Where do all these things lead to? She said, go on. Hence, you realize that a sign we expect and we hope that God will repress it is the earthquake. Sorry. It's not going to take place just in Greece, though. We are concerned with our geographical area right now. Earthquakes of the same magnitude will take place in other places. In America, they say that something much, much, much greater than an earthquake will take place. One is scared even to say something like this about America. So this was back in 2017. So his, you'll notice back in 2017, he's a little bit more, he's not as specific, because like I said, it seems the closer we get to these prophecies, the more specific he gets. And by the way, he said something at the beginning, before that part. He said, the events that will happen, and he said, during our time. So this says that no, this isn't a future time of what your grandchildren are going to see, what your children are going to see, what we are going to see, us, now in our time, our lifetimes. And I thought that was really important, a little tidbit of information there, he says. So we have all that, and then of course, you know, I'm going to go back to this last video where again the prophecies of America say this particular thing. Let me find it. It says, God, my child, will speak powerfully at the time when they will believe that their plans have succeeded. Rather, it means the old geophysical shocks, namely the great earthquake or the eruption of the Yellowstone volcano. But he specifies more on the earthquake later, as you know. Let's see here. As we know, I've shared this before with you, but I want to get to a specific portion here. Okay, so half of America will be engulfed by the sea, with even the lands of the indigenous peoples disappearing beneath the waters as the San Andreas Fault ruptures. Strange occurrences described as signs and monsters will extend all the way to Canada, leaving uncertainty as to whether Canada itself will remain above water. Whatever remains will be under the gaze of King John. We'll get into King John later. I have another video on that. but there's a portion in here where he says a great evil is being prepared on a global scale. A global scale. I'm wondering exactly what that means and what. Maybe you all can comment below on what this is. But anyway, an attempt to cause a massive earthquake. However, those behind it will fail, as the very place where they plan to unleash devastation will be the one to sink. Okay, so those are the things I wanted to share with you. We have it, as you see, he's saying people are trying to plan these earthquakes. You know, they're trying to plan these things. The people are. Again, weather modification. I heard that it was possible that the earthquake with the Turkey-Serbia earthquake a few years ago, they're saying that that was actually engineered, modified, but I don't know. I'm just telling you, when we mess with Mother Nature, when we mess with the way God has made, put this planet, we're on it, we're supposed to be respectful and not playing God. Well, as we said, we reap what we sow. I've said that several times. All of this is happening now. I found it very kind of, I don't know, surreal, shocking, odd, that all of a sudden all these stories on the weather, the volcanoes and the earthquakes, and then this big rift in Southern California just happened to come up, and I wasn't looking, I wasn't doing any research, I wasn't searching for what was going on with earthquakes or anything. Even though I knew all this, that these were prophecies, I wasn't like, let me go see what's happening in the Pacific Ocean. Let me go see what's happening with the Ring of Fire. Let me go see what's going on with California. Is there some kind of thing, close to the San Andreas Fault? No, that just popped up out of nowhere for me. It just came up in a list of videos, and I found that really no coincidence. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, I hope that you got something out of this and don't think I'm a total kook. But if you do think I am one, that's okay. I'll live. In any case, thanks so much for watching. Please share your comments on this if you have any. Maybe you understand something. Maybe you've been looking. I don't know. Maybe you find something interesting in this you want to share. If you would, you could subscribe to my channel on YouTube if you'd like, or whatever. Share my videos. Like them. I really appreciate all of your support. I thank you so much for looking and following me on all of my previous videos up to now. I really appreciate all of your support and all your kind comments. I read all of them. Thanks so much.